We do have a short session, so let's try and make sure we get started on time here. I'm excited to introduce Matt Newton and Ansh Shah from Old Dominion University, who are here to talk to us today about record alerts in their new implementation of Education Cloud. And this is something that, when I saw some of the preview, I was kind of excited about because there were new ideas in there that I hadn't seen before. So you're welcome to post questions in the Q&A tab at any time, and we will address those at the end. Thank you.
Okay, great. Again, my name is Matt Newton, and I'm here joined with my colleague Ansh. I am going to take away that poll so we can go full screen. There we go. And we're going to be talking to you about early alerts. For those of you who don't know about us, we're Old Dominion University. We're in Norfolk, Virginia. We have about 23,000 students. We like to think of ourselves as Salesforce first, and we're a banner school, really military friendly. If we're looking at our challenges that we were focused on solving, just to true up our language or our knowledge on this, we have early alerts, and there's a silent struggle that happens with students. So at ODU, we wanted to improve student retention, and from a student perspective, we wanted to improve academic success. We needed a way for faculty to really highlight these critical student concerns and enable the campus to offer timely intervention. So, this silent struggle that happens where students are sinking and you get some information around midterm grades when those get posted, and then you try and give some type of intervention can sometimes help, but also just doing it once a semester just doesn't seem to be enough. So we wanted to really look at that early alert solution that we had implemented before and see if we could improve upon that, those pitfalls. Just to true up again that knowledge about early alerts or record alerts, we reached for the record alerts object inside of Education Cloud. You might know that as alerts in EDA or some other custom object you might have in your own Salesforce org. So alerts are these objects where you can store that that help support staff, where we can store those concerns about grades, attendance, and other areas that might impede the student success, like Brian was talking about just a minute ago. We implemented 3 different types so far inside of Education Cloud, and the one we're gonna speak about today primarily and focus on is student progress notifications. So we renamed early alerts, and that's kind of what we're calling it at ODU. The pitfalls that we had previously was that we had implemented this before with other products. We had done it, and we really just begged faculty members to be able to put in information around midterm grades, saying, tell us about your most problematic students. We'd have to export that information, or we'd use a system, we'd push that out, and we had some struggle with getting that timely information to the support staff. So we really wanted to improve upon that and just look at how we could, because we knew that there were midterm grades, we knew that there were late stage withdrawal risks. So we wanted to improve on that. So our vision was really to say, from day one, we need to be able to capture an alert all the way to the very end of the class. And that information really needs to get back to the faculty or to the support staff in a very rapid way. So looking at how we could do that in this new model. We've gone ahead and put together a lucid chart that kind of outlines our solution. And so I'm going to switch over to that real quick, and we can take a closer look at that solution. All right, and so here it is. And to talk us through this, I've got Ansh, who's going to walk us through what this looks like from the faculty member's perspective.
All right, thank you, Matt. This lucid chart outlines the full life cycle of a record alert at our university. The top of the chart covers initial process of the record alert creation. The faculty can submit student progress notifications for their students by accessing the MyODU portal. Next. The portal allows the faculty to enter details regarding the student progress notifications. They can select statuses of satisfactory or unsatisfactory based on the sentiment of the student's progress. They can select a reason from a list of options that is dynamic based on the status they select. This screenshot shows a list of reasons that are available to the faculty for an unsatisfactory notification. This app also gives them an option to add additional details such as a grade or a comment. Next. Once they submit the student progress notifications, they are sent to Education Cloud via a connected app, and they are created as records of a custom staging object. The staging object enables us to intake raw data from the portal and insert it into text fields in Education Cloud, and then it allows us to use Salesforce's native declarative tools to transform the raw data. We decided to use a custom flow, to build a custom flow to process the submitted student progress notifications and create actionable record alerts within Education Cloud. Next. Here's a look at some of the fields that are populated by the flow that generates the record alerts. The flow sets values such as alert start and end dates, status, reason. It also stamps some SIS attributes and also several lookup fields that relate the record alert to student, faculty, and course records that are also in Education Cloud. It then calculates the severity of the record alert, and Matt will be covering that in a little bit. Here's a quick look at the record alert record that is created by the flow. The academic advisor is set as the owner. And you can also see some of the other fields that I talked about earlier, which are also set by the flow. I'll pass it back to Matt now to talk about how the alert severity is calculated and how the record alerts are used in downstream processes.
Yeah, so we use the flow to be able to calculate the severity. We went through an exercise to be able to identify what that is, and I'll talk about that in just a sec. We focused on using high, medium, and information. And based on the severity, we're performing different actions inside the system. So the highest, we're looking at giving a bell notification to an academic advisor. We also have, when that advisor logs in for that student, this alert would show on that person's home screen. So that advisor sees Matt Newton is performing really well. We got some really high severity feedback about Matt in this particular course. And we ask that, they start to triage those and do some outreach. And then, of course, if they just happen to pull up the student's record, it's also visible there. And then we back down all the way to just informational purposes. If we take a closer look at that severity, this is the work that we did with our faculty and staff members to identify what are the different statuses, reasons, severity, email addresses, and how is it routed. So it's a guidebook for you to take back to your campus if you're interested in doing something like this and don't have a model. We focused on looking at satisfactory and unsatisfactory as the main statuses. We found related reasons for those, and we also then coded them for severity. So you might have a different look at these at your campus, and then ultimately we decided we would send a positive or negative email, letting them know, if it's positive, keep up the great work. If it's negative, then we've got resources for you. We're sharing this feedback with you. We're parroting back that we're recognizing that there's a problem. Your faculty are seeing that problem, and that we're hoping to interact with them and take action to intervene. And then those are that routing procedure that we're following. For the high and medium severity items, we're going ahead and taking those into kind of a triaging queue where those are being outreached. Those activities begin, and then once they're completed, they'll mark that record as complete. We wanted to take a closer look at each one of those severity options that are happening and the different outcomes. This is what a record alert looks like inside of the system for an academic advisor. So we're sharing some basic information. If they were to click on that, it would take them into the record. An academic advisor who's logging in the morning would see a list of students and some of those alerts and the severity. And if they pull up the student's record, they would be able to look at the student, and when they're looking at that, they would see alerts at the top. We're using Omni Studio and Flexcards in order to display this. This is something that was delivered out of the box, and then we made some slight modifications to it. We added an outreach and then also a reminder for it to come back in 7 days so that it dismisses the alert. And then we can also resolve it from this view as well. Pulling back and looking at this, we have, after that happens, we look at the sentiment and then we send those emails out. All right, and I'm going to go back to the presentation. So outcomes, we are just a little bit on how this is going for us. We've done it for 2 semesters now, and we produced this this dashboard in order to track our outcomes. I would say that going into this model has caused us to be generating a lot more alerts than we had in the past. And so because of that, there is more alerts than we have ever seen before. And so one of the things that's helpful is that we have more information that's coming at us, but now we have the challenge of how to respond to that. And triaging has been really helpful for us, but we have definitely, it's a learning curve for us to be able to take this information and make it actionable and try and do the outreach. And what we've seen in our first semester after that was completed with this new way of kind of processing alerts. We were able to identify that there is a slight lift in the students' outcomes. So we're seeing higher grades, and also we're able to track that they're more successful in course completions when we do this kind of activity versus those students who we didn't perform this activity on. Some other ideas that we had for record alerts beyond the student progress notification is that we were looking at these other items here that have listed. Really, this is some activity that we did and generated these ideas from faculty and academic advisors, and we asked them, what are the most important alerts that you would want to see in the system? So if you're curious about stealing some of these ideas, feel free to screenshot this. We've already implemented the last 2 as well. So we're hoping to move on to some of these other progress alerts to see if we can enhance student success and retention for our students. All right, and that's a quick overview of how we're using record alerts in Education Cloud. I'm going to turn it over to Brian, and maybe we can have some Q&A on any questions you might have about how we're using the system. Oh, Brian, I think you're on mute.
Of course I am. So the 2 questions I was able to pull out of the chat, if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A, or I'll try and hop over and look for those. Let's jump to this question here first, Matt. Do students only have one advisor in this scenario?
Yes, we have this concept that we keep in Banner of a primary and a secondary advisor, but we're always just notifying the primary advisor about these alerts. Anybody can see the alert in the system, but the ownership of that is set to the primary.
Okay. Second one here. Curious to know if the alerts are only based on grades and course attendance. We have a custom solution and excited to hear what others are doing.
So go ahead.
I did post in the chat if people want to share what their ideas are for their alerts. Maybe we can jump over there in a moment and run through that list together, Matt.
Yeah, I can say that for us, our record alerts are definitely focused towards, like successful outcomes, and then we did give the component where faculty members can put in a progress grade. It does not necessarily have to be that. They could even leave that blank, and it could be, a more just general course attendance, or not necessarily about learning and understanding the material.
All right. Is anyone using this for uses outside of enrolled students? Like, this is really more for the group, I think, over in the chat, or you can reply there, folks. What LMS do you use?
We're using Canvas at ODU. There was some chat about whether or not we should build this functionality that we showed to you inside that product. Ultimately, we decided to go with the portal team and had them do some custom development and write that data back in. But I do know that there's some interest from Salesforce to be able to kind of work inside of that, because I think so many schools use Canvas.
Yeah, we're a D2L user, and trying to get to the data without buying a bunch of extra features from the vendor is quite costly. Has your experience been like that with Canvas to get at your data?
I'm actually not sure. I know that we made the decision though. We thought it would be easier to build something though in our portal as opposed to getting and going the Canvas route. But I left it to our portal team to kind of make that decision as to where to develop that.
Awesome. What is the effort involved to implement this? What percentage is out of the box with what you've built here today?
Yeah, I would say that the capture part is probably, and you don't have to implement it this way, right? Like you could do a more standardized approach with early alerts and then maybe grow it from there where you're asking once a semester for faculty. There's lots of different ways you can implement that. We went the custom route because we wanted to make it easy for faculty members to be able to access their list and be able to quickly respond and then come back the very next day. So building that custom interface was probably the heaviest lift, getting the data over and getting the emails out and communicating that back to students and organizing the staff to be able to see the records. I feel like was half of it, but the front end was so important as well. And you could go a little bit more low barrier to entry or lower that barrier to entry by using something like form assembly and a list of emails with unique links. I mean, there are different approaches that you could take. You could do something if you have enough licenses for community users and make faculty members community users and get them to log in to put in those. So a lot of different approaches I think you can take.
Thank you. Are all courses on the same schedule? Like, do they all end at the same time?
Right now we do have that, but in the future we are kind of moving to an 8-week for our global and online students. So that will definitely change that. So for us, I mean, we will offer different starts throughout a semester. And so that is a challenge that we need to work out and how we'll deal with that. But the idea is that we're going to be basing everything off of a course start and stop date.
Has there been any exploration at ODU using record alerts to send system alerts to end users? For example, student issues, new workarounds, system status update?
We haven't talked about doing that, but I know that we talked about those alerts at the end, and those are focused on kind of the student. We know that there are kind of staff alerts as well that they might want to know about various things. And we kind of started to separate and say, oh, that's a great idea, but that really doesn't fit with like an alert that meets and sits well on a student's record. That's some other type of alert. And we decided we were going to prioritize those first before we kind of drift into that other lane. But I don't feel like there's anything that's stopping you from being able to accomplish that with that object.
And Matt, can you say again what your SIS was or is?
We're a banner school.
Do you have any escalation rules in place for your high-risk students?
I think because of this being our second semester, we haven't really gotten to that, but that is definitely something you could do to calculate the severity. So right now we have a really basic severity model where we're just saying if they put in, the faculty member puts in these different types of items, the status, the reason, and what that code is, then we calculate severity. You could do this in that flow when you're creating that record alert. You could do some checking and say, if they're first gen, then a medium turns to a high or vice versa. And so because of that, you would be able to, I think, if you're using our model, that would be one way you could accomplish that.
Thank you. Are these alerts all manual, entered by faculty advisors, or can they also be automatic? And do you have a mix?
So there are some that are automatic. So the ones that I talked about at the end, I think it's like a student transfers in more credit. And so we see that the banner transfer hours goes up. That's an automatic alert that gets generated, and that comes from our SIS. But for the student progress notifications that we focused on, those are generated manually by a faculty member. So they're having to log in, look at their class roster, select the 5 people they want to leave feedback for, set that reason and the status on them. And then that would trigger it to come over automatically.
All right. I think that's all of our questions we have out there. I was just trying to look over at the chat if anyone had shared any other alert types that they've done. I shared ones that I've seen or that we're using. And Thanks, Alan, for your comment on the Canvas, the open API. Not found that to be the case with ours, so that's helpful. All right, so tell me more. What else is out there? I didn't really introduce myself earlier. I'm also on the Higher Ed Advisory Council, and it's a group of schools and folks representing the schools for all various roles up and down the Salesforce ecosystem. And we have some availability. There's a group on LinkedIn that you can join as higher ed stakeholders, where you can get more information and interact. There's also office hours and some other things like that that are available. These are also some other sessions available. Take a look, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Ansh.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.